Hi guys, my name's Liam and welcome to the L Taylor Guitar channel, where every week I upload some kind of video about guitar or gear reviews, music production, music theory, any of those things every Friday at 4 PM GMT. If any of those float your boat, you should absolutely subscribe to this channel, and if you want to press the little bell icon next to subscribe as well, that'll let you know as soon as a new video comes out. My day job is in music education, and I've been earning money through playing guitar and writing music for several years now, so I hope that I speak with some authority on the subject of music creation. As an educator, I'm often asked to define specific musical terms, so I thought today's video could look at some of the more common ones, some of the ones that come up quite a lot in conversations with students and other musicians, specifically terms that relate to music theory. Whilst researching this video, I found a few terms that I think really deserve their own video, so if you think there's an important term I didn't get to in this one, it's probably coming in future. But if you want to leave a comment with any specific words you'd like a definition for, I'll either get to you in the comments or include them in a future video. So here we go, in no particular order. Here are some of the most requested music theory definitions. The tonic is another name for the root note, either the root note of a chord or the root note of a scale. You could also describe it as the first degree of the scale or simply as the one note. So in C major, the tonic is C. There we go, that was an easy one to start off with. A cadence is a small collection of chords placed at the end of a musical phrase with the intention of giving some kind of sense of resolution or conclusion. There are a few named cadences which were really common in classical music, Baroque period and so forth, but they do exist in rock and pop music. If nothing else, they're useful to know just in order to subvert any expectations your audience will have when they start to hear a cadence. These are described with chord numbers, the Roman numerals that you've probably seen before, but I'm going to give you some chord examples as if we're playing in C major as well to try and make this a little easier. So let's start with an authentic cadence. This is a 5 to a 1 or a G to a C. We also have a plagal cadence, which is a 4 to a 1. And this is recognisable from a lot of hymns. It's the bit where you say Amen at the very end. And you can also get a half cadence. This is where you end on a 5 rather than a 1. So rather than ending on a C, you end on a G. Lyrics, as you probably know, are words used in a song. Often people will describe a musician as having a lyrical playing style, or that a specific instrumental phrase was lyrical. There's some agreement about what the term actually means, but it's not always easy to put that into words. I'm going to have a go anyway. Generally, I guess it means light, flowing, natural, smooth, or simply something which you could imagine being sung. You probably wouldn't get lyrical shred guitar, for example, but you might get a lyrical melody as part of a solo. I have heard people use the word to describe something that isn't particularly smooth sounding or that wasn't written in a register that could be sung easily, so I think some people will use the word lyrical when actually they just mean that they found it pleasant. Specifically, what I've been asked a lot is the difference between a philharmonic and a symphony orchestra. So, to start with, in classical music, an orchestra is a collection of instruments. That's it. So whether it's 400 violins or a brass band or anything else, we call it an orchestra. Philharmonic and symphonic basically mean the same thing. They mean harmonious and nice sounding. The reason that we have two words for the same thing is essentially so that we have more naming options. So the London Philharmonic Orchestra and the London Symphony Orchestra are two different bands, basically. They might play similar styles of music, but they're different groups of people, so that's why we have different names. However, symphony, rather than symphonic, does have a specific meaning. A symphony is a piece of orchestral music written in 4 movements, one of which subscribes to sonata form. feel free to Google sonata form if you feel the need. So I guess by calling something a symphony orchestra or a symphonic orchestra, it implies that that group of people plays symphonies, but that is not necessarily the case. An inversion is when you swap the order of notes in a chord so that the deepest pitch in that chord is not a root note. So if we played a normal major chord, but we put the third down so the third is the deepest note in that chord, we would call that the first inversion. If we used the fifth as the lowest note in that chord, we would call that the second inversion. An interval is the distance between two pitches. So we start with a unison, that is two notes that are the same pitch. Then in the major scale we have the interval of a second, followed by a major third, then a fourth, a fifth, major sixth, major seventh, and then an octave. In the minor scale we have a unison, second, minor third, fourth, fifth, minor sixth, minor seventh, and an octave. There are some others in between as well, so you can have a flat 2, a flat 4, a diminished 5. Those are just a few examples. If you go higher than an octave, we would call that, rather than a second for example, we'd call that a ninth, and rather than a fourth, we would say an 11th. An interval is just the measurement of distance between two pitches. There will definitely be a series of videos on this channel about the modes at some point in the future. It's quite a lot, so I'm pacing myself before I do that. But I thought I'd have a crack at giving a really basic overview of what modes are. So modes function like a scale in that they're a series of notes you can construct melodies with. Basically, you don't use them as often as scales. You wouldn't write a song in a mode, for example, or not normally. You create a mode when you start playing a scale on a note other than the root note. In this sense, the minor scale is technically a mode of the major scale. If we take C major, for example, but you start playing it on the A note, which is the 6th degree of the scale, you have A minor. So to start with, we have C major. If we start on the D, which is the 2nd degree of the scale, we get D Dorian. If we start on the 3rd degree of the scale, which is E, we have E Phrygian. And so forth. That, in a nutshell, is what modes are, and that's about as simple as I can make it. Each mode has its own unique, specific sound, which can be a lot of fun to play with, and there's plenty of videos already that go into detail on the modes, which I'll let you find in your own time. I will be doing my own soon. But I just wanted to give a brief overview because it does come up often. Cool, that's enough for today. I want to know what musical terms you would like defined. I'm happy to do videos like this, but specific to guitar things, or gear, or music production, music technology, or another one on music theory. It's pretty much up to you. I'll see what the demand is. So get asking in the comments. Subscribe if you haven't already, although I trust that you probably have. And I will see you next Friday at 4 PM GMT. Toodaloo.